evening. Welcome to the seminar continuation on technology related to toxicity and detection. We saw about the mercury contamination. Now we want to stress mainly on the mercury, which is used for manufacturing of certain products in industries. And if we see, mercury is used in minute amounts in fluorescent light bulbs, ultraviolet light bulbs, as well as some bulb industry. But mercury is mainly used as an amalgam. It can mix with metals, and it is used for making the amalgams such that they can be separated later stage, and the separation involves toxic emissions. For example, some metals such as gold can form amalgam, and mercury can form amalgam with copper and zinc, etc. When they are molded and they are molten, they form an amalgam and they are separated later. So that mercury gives such a heat and conductivity to such materials, and they can also be absorbed. Due to this reason, such industry has got emissions of mercury in high amounts compared to the usage of mercury in electronic components and electric switches, even in incandescent lamps and bulbs. If you see minute traces of mercury found in some PCBs and other manufactured components, you can see the PCB now. I'm showing you capacitor. You can see the capacitor at the end of the spring. I'm showing you a capacitor. The capacitor does not have that much amount of mercury. It contains a low amount of mercury for electrical conductivity. So the alteration of electrical conductivity needs an oil inside a capacitor. That particular oil may be a mercury combined oil. So it can be a mixture of oil along with mercury, so that the sensitivity of that particular capacitor increases, and the capacitor is going to store charge based on this composition. This was earlier used in some radion tubes manufacturing and other components, but nowadays mercury free capacitors, mica capacitors are in existence, so we can use those capacitors. And this is another product. You can see the LED bulb. LED bulb is going to contain some traces of mercury quantities in early manufacturing of LED bulbs for good crystallization of the glass. You can see the glass is very uniform, and you can see the anode and cathode clearly. So the uniform deposition of such glass particles on making the mold involves the amalgam, which is facilitating such a process. So mercury is found in manufacturing of certain compounds and certain products. In the LED it is not found. Some traces of mercury may be combined in the LED. So the products have an affinity to absorb less quantities of mercury only, but more quantities of mercury are found in the manufacturing and industrial processes. This is what we have got the information from the data sheets of government regulations of PCB of state in South India. And we can also see some chlorine products which are used mercury as insecticides. Insecticides are also containing some amount of mercury in chlorine products. So mercury is found in many products as a useful material, but it is toxic to human being. Human beings should not absorb the mercury. If so, it may result in some abnormal increase and decrease of heartbeat. So I did an experiment with mercury trace, a small amount of mercury trace, not much, which was found in the oil used as lubricant to electrical surfaces. I have got a small sample of such oil. Earlier I had shown you the garlic oil which was used to separate the traces of mercury, but this is one type of oil which is used as a lubricant. You can see the oil container, it is used as a lubricant. The small traces of oil, it has got mercury content in it. So burning of such oil may result in the large emanation of mercury, which is very hazardous to human being. So burning mercury emissions are a result of coal burning, burning of oils, burning of some petroleum products, burning of some contaminated oils, burning of lubricant oils. Even lubricant oils, petroleum products contain now traces of mercury. Now if you see the trace of this oil is kept here on the sponge. Now I want to combine this particular thing with the garlic oil, garlic extract combined with the oil purchased from shops. If we do so, what happens? If we do so, it is in a minor quantity, it is not in a major quantity. Very minute quantity, minute amounts are taken for experimentation, which is not going to affect me much, but it is going to affect me in one way. I don't want to say now or conclude now. We want to see it as an experiment. If you see the here, can you see the yellow spot? There I am going to mix this oil. What it does is it is combining with mercury, and you can see, can you see the yellow is slowly turning into orange, and it is going to get oxidized, and I am getting the smell of this particular mixture. It is reacting and it is trying to form a compound. The yellow has turned into orange, and later it may turn into a color similar to that of a benzoin tincture. It may react with the oxygen in the atmosphere and may turn into benzoin tincture. But I get both smells. One is a smell of benzoin tincture, one is the smell of chlorine. So this is the effect of minute traces of quantity of mercury combined with the garlic extract. So garlic extract can isolate mercury from such a area concentrated inside our body. This is possible, but we cannot use the two. Both are harmful to the human health. This is what I want to emphasize through this particular seminar. However, we will continue the seminar taking into effect the effects of mercury as well as the electronic industrial wastes, which are dealing with other wastes like lead, which is found in solder. We use a solder for PCB, and many traces of solder, many traces of lead are found in the solder paste used for soldering the PCB components, namely the components like capacitors, resistors, transistors, and the chips, ICs. ICs are being impregnated in the PCBs. So they are to be soldered, the pins are to be soldered, the solder contains the lead. And where we can find mercury, if you ask, the coating of the printed circuit board has got some copper wires. Copper wires means the wires of copper are not physical wires, they are etched printed circuit boards. You can see etching. I can show you an example of etching here. Can you see the etched printed circuit board? This is the etching. Can you see it now clearly? What you can see now is with the light, I can see some carbon areas, and you can see some lines, the printed circuit board. This is called as a etching wire. The etching wire has to be coated by a material such that the material is going to give you the sensitivity of the temperature. The particular PCB must not be kept in a hotter temperature, it must be kept in the 25 degree or less, as well as the etching material is going to protect the particular conductivity of the particular wire, the etched wire. It is going to act as both insulator as well as the protector of that particular wire, because when the current passes through the etched wire in the PCB, when two such etched wires are contacted, then they may trigger a particular spark, the fire spark. To prevent that, the insulator is being coated on the wire, and the current passing through the wire is enough to produce a small spark, or it may even burn the shorter two pins of an IC which is connected to the wires. To prevent that, a layer coating of insulator is given, generally PVC paste or some kind of varnish is given as a coating, but the varnish will contain minute amounts of mercury to sense that external temperature. So the entire surface temperature of the PCB is given to the computer by use of mercury. We are thinking that the digital world does not use mercury, but it is not. Mercury finds its good use in the digital world, but the emissions over the years is going to be important when mercury is being used. So we have found mercury less utilized in the electronic industry, but it is best utilized in the manufacturing industry of metal production, metal extraction from ores, and metal alloys, that is amalgamation. We can also see some mercury seals in the water pumps and other pump manufacturing in mechanical engineering. So mechanical engineering finds extensive use of mercuries, and also for mechanical structures which are supporting the electronic industry control and automation, mechanical structures which are supporting the microwave manufacturing industry. Microwave does not mean microwave ovens, it is also the microwave components which are made by foundries. We have electrical foundries, we have CNC machines are utilized in producing the microwave components. Those utilize these particular traces of mercury in the mechanical structures. So very little amount of mercury usage is there in the electronic industry, but the supporting structures for electronic industry like mechanical fittings, mechanical sets, mechanical structures, as well as the coatings, layer coatings, the sensors, detectors, the capacitive overcoatings, the PCB overcoatings, the amalgamated materials for stress and strength, and the detectors of temperatures and vibrations all involve the components called as mercury in it. Hence, when these materials, PCBs and other materials, become an e-waste, the e-waste are recycled by removing the components and taking the PCBs to remold them as original PCBs and removing the copper in it, removing the plastic in it, then they can be remolded into same original PCBs, which can be further utilized for the next circuit. This is how the e-waste is being recycled. But when they are recycled, they have an affinity to absorb the mercury found in the soil. This is where the mercury in the top layer of the soil is not going to affect the particular process, but mercury in the second layer of the soil is going to affect the even recycling process, which is going to take the e-waste as a raw material. Here the e-waste is going to be burnt and then reproduced with whatever is left out. At that time, this mercury is going to be absorbed and it is going to be converted into vapor. Hence, we can find in many countries, we can also find in India, where you can see lumped PCB wastes. You can see so many motherboards, printed circuit boards dumped in an area like paper waste. Paper books have been dumped in library You can see some places in India, and if you go there, they can give you even a computer motherboard for free, free of cost. But the motherboard cannot be utilized for any purpose. They can be utilized for demonstration purposes only. But those, when they are recycled, they have an affinity to absorb mercury, and the emissions of mercury from the second layer of the soil is going to go to atmosphere through them. Hence, even France, United States, Canada, and many countries, this mercury is finding an important role in terms of plans to recycle it, and in terms of plans to contain it within the second layer of the soil. The emission of mercury is not wanted for our healthy living. Back in industries which are used in mining, drilling, offshore, um, in oil-rich countries, namely the UAE, such countries, we can see that mercury is not found in all products, but they use lightings, they use heavy lights. Say mercury vapor lamps are utilized there, electrical fluorescent vapor lamps are utilized in such countries. If you go there, the industry contains lot many fluorescent vapor lamps. At night time they start their production. They don't start their production in one time because of the high heat, but at night time they are going to start their production. So there you can see innumerable number of mercury vapor lamps. They are going to cause emissions, and they are responsible for global emissions even at the night time. And even the cement which is used for such supportive structures in drilling are containing these mercury deposits. These mercury deposits are not going to help in any manner. The mercury deposits are going to be emissive, and they are going to be radiative over the days, because they have got good use. However, the emanation in the air cannot be contained at all unless and until there are some ways, regulatory waves, or ways of limiting the consumption of mercury by the industrial processes. Number two, related to the oil and drilling industry, mining industry in Emirates, and offshore industry near Emirates, and some offshore industry near the Malabar coasts of India, and offshore industry near the Chennai coastal area. If we can see, the mining and drilling also can showcase what the mercury does on some fauna and flora, or the biome surrounding that particular environment. And when they mined, they got deposits of mercury which was utilized for various purposes. But this particular products are going to be again radiative in future after 10 years or 12 years, which is going to be a concern. Now it is not of concern. In the drilling industry and petroleum industry, the mercury has got a vital effect. When oil is burnt, when a petroleum product is burnt, the mercury gets emanated. Mercury is emitted from such burning. A petroleum compound has got mercury in it. If you can see the metallic pipes, normally oil pipes are not PVC pipes. Many supportive structures may be PVC, but metallic pipes are used for oil extraction refineries. In refineries, we have lot of such metallic pipes, and metals like chromium, lead, and arsenic are used in sensors of rating the viscosity of oil, and also if there is a leak, for the leak detection they are being utilized. However, the metallic pipes like aluminum pipes, barium pipes, and Even the amalgamated copper, aluminum, and certain pipes, they are not going to be utilized for such detector purposes, but they are going to carry this particular oil throughout the industry for refinery. Hence, sealing such pumps involves these amalgams, the mercury amalgams, which is going to combine with the oil in a later stage. Burning of that coal, burning of oil also results in emanation of mercury. So mercury emissions are unavoidable anywhere in the world, but mercury consumption is avoidable through industrial regulations. And moreover, we can see that mercury was used in producing electricity. Mercury batteries were available in the early days. Now we have lead acid battery. If we see what the battery comprises of, you can take a compound called as mercurous chloride, which is going to be vital in conductivity. Mercurous chloride is very vital in conductivity. So, in early days, mercury batteries were available. Now we have lead acid battery, which is also containing some traces of mercury as important compound. We can see the UPS, uninterrupted power supply, which is being fed from lead acid battery. The lead acid battery is a big, giant structure from which it is going to supply rechargeable ions and rechargeable electricity, which is lasting for some amount of time, some amount of days in case of a power failure of the system. So this is unavoidable in terms of electricity. So in electrical stations also, the emissions of mercury is unavoidable. So even though we know that this is a hazard, protecting ourselves from mercury is unknown to a worker, to an engineer, to a controller, to a manager, to a employee in such organization, say oil drilling, electricity, even in mining industry, even in some pesticides or chlorine protection industry, or even in metallic forging industry. We have metallic forging industry. So how to protect ourselves, or the how to protect the skin and the external layers, eyes and nasal inhalation has to be avoided. How to protect ourselves from the mercury emanation is not known yet, because in industries a person is supposed to have a lot of helping aids are gloves, cuffs, and then goggles, everything one must wear, helmet one must wear, but even those contain traces of such compounds. Hence, the deterioration and degradation of health over years is accepted. For that, an alternate medicinal allowance can be claimed by an individual, but the sudden emission of mercury has to be detected and it has to be contained. Sudden emission of mercury is a killer. Rather than saying it is going to affect the health or degrade health, it is a killer, because of which there may be a water contamination. If the water gets contaminated with mercury, then it may result in warming. The warming is not going to be very vivid, but in terms of the acidic content, it is going to result in very um, burning sensation to the person who is going to take the water. Hence, the emissions, the primary sources of emissions, say hydrogen stream, then the ventilation vents, then the ground due to the temperature above, any temperature above say 20 degrees Celsius, which is going to result in the emissions of the mercury. So liquid mercury, we have seen liquid mercury. It has got good surface tension, and it rolls over the surface. It is not adhering to surface, and mercury will not combine with the iron. Our blood contains iron, but mercury will not combine with iron. Luckily, we are protected by our nature. But why still we are worried about the mercury emissions? Because wherever we see, say, mercuric oxide, mercuric zinc, then alkaline zinc carbon Lagrange batteries, then we have the mercury chloride, zinc Hg amalgam batteries, and rechargeable batteries. All these contained mercury. Even now we find the oldest battery models, and even now we find rechargeable batteries, they contain traces of mercury. It is unavoidable with the batteries. And mercuric oxide button cells, we have button cells for watches, for some other devices. We had calculators, button cells, and small toys contain button cells. Button cells contain mercuric oxide. So uh, mercuric oxide batteries were produced um, for transistorized equipments, walkie-talkies, photoelectric exposures, hearing aids, electronic watches, pacemakers, cardiac pacemakers even used the mercuric oxide batteries, button cells. Um, Here, the ill effect caused by this mercury batteries could not be avoided, because they were necessitating the manufacturing of such button cells from mercury. So usage and replacement of the mercury battery was a very difficult process. When we rely on direct current DC batteries, this is the problem. Definitely, in the past, the inventor of alternating current had written that the manufacturing of direct current products may result in the alteration and emissions of the human body nature, and it may not benefit the human body. Whereas he portrayed alternating current as a self-correcting mechanism, which is helping the human body to correct itself. And it is very needed that even though we are using a lot of DC current products, these are DC products, mercury batteries, button cells, mercury vapor lamps, and other lamps. Mercury vapor lamps can even run without electricity in the night time. That means they are radiative. But it is better to rely on alternating current only if alternating current supply is obstructed. Then we have to go for the DC current supplies and DC current sources. But when we have lot many alternating current supplies and alternating current products, then it is better to go for them to avoid emissions and to detect emissions and to correct our body mechanism. Our body mechanism relies much on alternating current, even though it is a very high voltage compared to DC. DC is not going to affect us in terms of minute quantities. In terms of chemo reactions and emissions, it is going to affect us. But alternating current is going to affect us when it is over voltage, over current, that can be arrested by some circuit mechanisms. So alternating current had facilitated from the past to present, whereas DC has compensated the lack of or the emergency situation of power failures by providing such mercury compounds or use of mercury compounds in it. But with the environment health concerns, the mercury emissions are unavoidable in both cases, power industry, metallic industry, as well as the DC battery manufacturing industry. So we need to see that emissions are controlled, emissions are contained such that we are not a victim of such pollutants if we work in such industry, or even if we do not work in such industry. We are consumers, we are customers of their products. but still we can be victims. So it is better to throw light on alternating current products nowadays. We have ample number of alternating current sources and supplies. We need to throw light upon alternating current products, thinking our health, thinking the exhausts and emissions from DC, metallic and oil supply products. We have even generators running on oils. They are going to be highly emissive over the period of time. I want to conclude this session with a good note on mercury, saying that mercury should be present in the second layer of the earth. It should not cause harm to human beings. By emitting mercury, it is going to cause harm. So industries emitting mercury have to control them and contain them. Thank you very much for listening.